What's going on, Sens fans? Welcome back to another New Era Sens podcast. I'm Jacob, and I'm here with Jordan, as per usual. How you doing, Jordan?
Mm-hmm. Doing great. Can't complain. Busy off season so far for everyone.
Very busy off season. As many of you know that are watching this, we're live with the second round of the draft right now. We're starting this at about pick 50, so we already waited to see who Ottawa would select, so we're not sitting here waiting. We'll definitely get into those picks. But yeah, this has been a pretty crazy last couple days, and even a couple weeks leading up to this. Obviously, we had the expansion draft, the entry draft right now, and just so many trades. It's been ridiculous. So yeah, we can get right into it. This is going to be a lot of fun. First off, let's just start off by talking about who Ottawa has already picked. So at 10th overall, Ottawa selected Tyler Boucher. That was a pick.
Love it.
I love it as well. I really do. But a lot of people don't. It was a very off the board pick. But Bruce Garriock tweeted out and said that there were rumors that he'd be going in the 12 to 15 range, and so Pierre Dorion wanted him, and there wasn't a chance to move down. So I trust it.
No, like I like Boucher as a player, and like in my personal rankings, I had him in the late 20s. Just because it's so hard to rank him because he was hurt. I believe he like MCL tear, meniscus strain, got pneumonia, and I want to say he actually may have gotten COVID or COVID protocols as well. So like the guy had a rough season, but he is everything. Like basically, he's a mini Brady Tkachuk 2.0, just big, physical, drives the net. And like you said, if he's the guy Ottawa wanted at 10 and the one they're looking at, yeah, they probably knew they maybe could have got him a few picks later and gotten like another second or something. But like I think there was a report that said the Rangers were really high on him. And you look what the Rangers are doing this offseason. They just signed Goodrow to a 6-year, 3.5 contract. And they traded away Buchnevich for like Sammy Blais, who's kind of just a bottom six grinder.
Yeah.
So, like, I think they would have lost him, and I really like the thing with it. Like, no one's saying Boucher is a bad player or a bad prospect. It's just where he was taken, and if they feel like he's the best player available, I'm going to trust the scouts on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pierre Dorion made it very clear that he's going to be drafting for best player available, and obviously the scouting team believes that this is the best player available. So,
yeah,
I do think Tyler Boucher has
take home run. Oh, yeah, everyone wanted the Sens to take a home run swing. I can't think of a bigger home run swing than a guy that played like 12 games all year.
Yeah, exactly. And so looking at this, and even last year, Pierre Dorion probably knew that there's going to be some struggles this year for scouting. So he's keeping his eye on this year's guys. And like the whole team, they've been watching him. They're not just picking a name out of a hat. Like I think Dorion said that he spent 3 years looking at this guy already, and he's just mind blown every time he watches him. So I have trust in the pick. Absolutely. I think he's going to bring something that we already have a lot of, but he's going to be able to do more, I guess. Like kind of the same way we have Cruikshank. He's going to be that gritty guy, but he also has that offensive upside. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. And another NHL dad in Brian Boucher. So the NHL or the Ottawa Senators dads could probably form a team that could beat the majority of the league. So that's fun to know.
Yeah. And then Ottawa at 39 picks Zach Ostapchuk. I might be mispronouncing that. I don't know the pronunciation. But Ostapchuk is a very similar pick. Just a big body, big center. And he said that he models his game after Josh Anderson and Sean Couturier. So if we could get a hybrid of that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and another typical, somewhat off the board, not as off the board as probably even Boucher, because he was a late season riser. I know a lot of scouts that watched him really liked his game and thought it was an interesting pick in the second round. So, yeah, like 6'3", I think 200-plus pound centerman, good hands on him. And I think the only issue I've seen listed from what I'm looking at is skating, which always seems to be an issue with a lot of these guys. But skating's something you can easily fix. Like we always reference the Mark Stone pick and his big issue with skating, and he turned out amazing. So I like the pick. Big centermen are hard to come by, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I've seen some clips just on Twitter over the last 20, 30 minutes. And Atu Ratty is off the board to the Islanders.
Yay. That'd be Lou.
Yeah, that's a good pick. But yeah, I think his skating isn't actually that bad. I have seen some clips floating around Twitter, and Ostapchuk, his skating, he can move really quickly, but like just the getting going and everything, he needs some work going. So I do think that he has a ton of potential and could be a very good center on this team. So,
yep.
And then the third pick, before we get into everything else, Ottawa actually traded down to 49 with LA and select Ben Roger, who is a 6'4" right-handed shutdown defenseman. So this is basically another Tyler Clevin. And so I like it though. Like he didn't play last year. So
nope, OHL guy didn't get an opportunity, didn't play at the U18s. So like there's nothing on with this guy. Like you have to look at last year's footage. So another big swing, like hoping that his two-way, and from what I have seen, he is a bit more two-way and offensive as a defenseman. Like I think he got like 8 points in 30 something games as a rookie last year for London. So that's not bad for a 6'4" defenseman. So they're definitely taking a big swing on this guy, which that's what this draft is to me. Like, yeah, there's some more obvious fallers people are going to reference. Like, I don't know who was available at the time, like the Raw Twos, the Stankovens, and them that are more household name picks. But taking a big swing at a 6'4" defenseman that if he hits, like that's an awesome pick. But it is a big stretch, not stretch, but big if, because the guy hasn't played in a year. So I don't know much about the guy. I haven't seen much clips of him. So trusting the scouts.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I have heard mentioned is that there's almost not an advantage. Obviously, you're at a huge disadvantage if you miss a whole year of what you do. But a different kind of advantage that they have is that they just spent a year and a half in their garage lifting weights. Like these guys are going to be so ready and so determined to get back on the ice, because I couldn't imagine being Ben Roger, ready to get drafted, whatever. You don't play anything. All these guys in the OHL, nothing. So I really think that they're going to be coming in better shape than most people. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think they said on the broadcast after he got drafted, I think they said he put on about 30 pounds of muscle since the like I think he was listed a bit over 200. So last time they weighed him in, I think he was probably around like 6. I don't know if he grew any, but he's around 170 apparently. So he put on about 25, 30 pounds of muscle in the time between the draft. And then you look at even like Tyler Boucher, the dude in that clip where he got drafted, dude's built like an ox. Like he's just all muscle. Like he's scary, and he looks older than me, and he's 18.
Yeah, exactly. It's really evident now that Ottawa is really trying to build a DJ and Pierre team. Like
they're just going to beat you up.
Yeah, exactly. And this pick really and so I'm going to go into a little bit of a rabbit hole here. Pierre Maguire comes in, and we will talk about that. I don't think we've talked about that since our last episode.
I don't think so, yeah.
But Pierre Maguire comes in, and he has this very evident 7-player list of what we need. Ottawa, you could argue, just drafted one in Ben Roger for the shutdown defenseman, but they didn't really go after anything that they needed on that list. And we could see free agency, another trade maybe, but they didn't go into anything on that list. They stuck with what is going to make a great team under DJ Smith. I really don't think that their contracts are in jeopardy here.
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
So many people going on about how Pierre Dorion, his job might be up, and here's Pierre Maguire coming in to take his job. I don't think so. If they're still drafting a team like this, they're confident that this is going to be their team for a while. And because if Pierre Maguire is coming in as the GM and he knows this for next year, he's going to be pushing and pushing and pushing to draft. I can't think of who was on the board at the time, but just the number one center, that shutdown defenseman. Just, I don't know. He has his list. And I even think if it was up to McGuire, we definitely would have taken Wallstead or Kosa at 10.
Yeah, especially. And I guess we can just transition into our thoughts on McGuire joining the Sens now, because the Sens don't pick for another 100 picks or so. Well, third round. But yeah, so he mentioned when he got hired that, like you said, with a 7-player list, that elite goalie is something Ottawa lacks right now, which major shade thrown to Matt Murray there. Sorry, bud. But he's not wrong. Matt Murray was very inconsistent and hurt last year. Yeah. So, and my thoughts on the Pierre McGuire hiring, when it was first announced, it was kind of just a big meh, just a big shoulder shrug, because he was hired as VP of player development. And basically, from the sounds of it, he's just going to be a sounding board and a liaison or a sounding board for Dorian to bounce ideas off of about pro scouting, trades, whatever. And he's also going to act more of his liaison between Melnyk and Dorian. So I don't know how much he's going to actually have an effect on. And everyone could say their jokes. We've all said the jokes about McGuire and his huge hockey nerd habits. We've all had fun poking fun at him. But at the end of the day, the guy is passionate about hockey, and we've been begging Melnyk to hire some front office help for years. And finally, he went, because Dorian has a skeleton crew working there. I don't even know how many guys work in the front office. So getting extra help, even if it's a bit controversial and easy to make fun of, it's never a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen this floated around many a times, but nobody actually acknowledges it. But broadcaster Pierre McGuire will not be the same as executive Pierre McGuire. One is a face for a TV. One is a brain behind a team. I don't know. I think that Pierre McGuire definitely is a huge plus for this team. He brings a lot of experience, and not necessarily the executive experience, the drafting experience, but nobody's been around the game longer than him. He knows everything there is to know about hockey. Whether he has an opinion that everybody agrees with or not, I don't know, but he knows everything about hockey. So
yeah, and I know there's some people that point back to his tenure with the Whalers when he was a head coach there and how that fell out. But also remember, that was 30 plus years ago. He was 30 years old, first time ever coaching in the NHL. People change in 30 years. Look at Don Waddell in Carolina. He's praised right now, but he was that GM of the Thrashers, and that organization was kind of a dumpster fire. Yeah. So people change, and he's not he's not the GM, and people are saying that he's hired to be the next GM. I don't Dorian has been involved with Melnyk on this entire rebuild from the start. I don't see why Melnyk is going to get rid of Dorian right now when it's starting to look like they're taking the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could argue that Dorian and DJ Smith are part of the rebuild process. And I understand that argument. Dorian might be just coming in, get a good team, get this team back on the right track and whatever. But yeah, he's doing such a fantastic job. You can't just can him for it. I don't know. It's weird because everybody making that argument has a point. But it's just, I don't know. I can't argue it, but I don't agree with it. So
I think you wait until the end of this upcoming year. The Atlantic Division looks scary now, and especially I don't even know if the details were finalized on the Reinhart trade to Florida. It's just happening. So I don't even know what that's going to. But still, another crappy Buffalo send their good player to Florida. It's oh, thanks. But so Ottawa, realistically, they could be fighting for a playoff spot in the wild card, or they could be a lottery team again. We don't know. There's so many question marks up in the air for that. So, you give Dorian and Smith the year, see how they're playing out. If it's an utter disaster, if they're in the basement again, then maybe you move on. But, right now, just saying, their time's almost up, it's a bit premature.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else on the Pierre McGuire front. No. And so we will get into the expansion draft here shortly. But Ottawa lost Joey Decord, and that is a huge L, not necessarily for the organization, but for the fans and for just the people in the organization. And because Joey Decord was a fantastic person to have around, and I'm sure he's going to be a great goalie. He maybe isn't our best option in the crease right now, but yeah, I really hope he pans out just like Drieger did, and maybe he can learn a thing or two from him.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, it's not the worst. Like people lost worse players than Ottawa did, but it's more so I think fans are upset just because the person that Joey Decord is. Like we're here to have Gustafsson, who's protected over him, and then Sugard, Mandalese, and Merlainen are still in the system. So we have good goalie prospects coming up. So Decord, that is an area of strength. I agree. Dorian said like that was an area they felt comfortable if they lost someone they could recover from. So, and the obvious hope for some people, like I know there's some divisiveness. Like I think you were a fan of protecting Watson. I want to protect Dadonov. We both got. I wish they were both still here.
Yeah,
And Tierney looked like a maybe option, but looking at Seattle's roster, they went very cheap on it. Like they spent no money. They spent the bare minimum. So yeah, and if Decord wasn't protected, Gustafsson was 100% the pick. And even like it sucks seeing Decord go because he is an amazing person, and I want nothing but the best for him. Gustafsson was the right pick. Younger, proved more at the NHL, and higher pedigree going into this season. So like, wish nothing but the best for Joey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Joey it's a tough loss. Just from the outside perspective, not necessarily again in the crease, but yeah, huge loss for us. And it feels like it was going to be no matter what, whether it was Watson, Dadonov, Gustafsson, whoever. So yeah, bang on. And then so yeah, you mentioned Reinhardt. There's a ton of trades off the board. So we'll also get into that in a second. Just the list of every single thing, but people that Ottawa were looking at, like Sam Reinhart, and even I don't know if Ottawa was actually in on Garland or not, but he's gone as well. And yeah, there's just so many names. So who do you see that's still left that Ottawa might have their eye on?
The one that comes to mind right now is Dvorak.
Yeah.
Like, and I know he's probably not he's not a number one center. Like if you look at his point production, I think he's around like the 45. I think this was his best past year. I think he was on pace for 50 plus points from what I remember, but he's always been around the 45-ish point pace. And like, he's a good player. I would like to have him on the team. So depends on what you'd have to give up for him. I don't see him as too much of an improvement on someone like Colin White, but he's basically just like a more consistent Colin White.
Yeah.
So do you want to have like both those four? I think he makes about the same as White too. I think he's about 4.5 for the next 4 years or something.
Yep.
So it's like, do you want both of those guys in the middle six being the centers? So Dvorak's one, like I am interested in and see where it goes. And then there's the Ryan Strome rumor as well.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't give up a lot for Strome because he is 29 and 1 year left on the contract, and he's not a long-term option. But if they can get him for a somewhat decent price, like their third-round pick this year and like a B prospect, sure. Then you have your number 2 center for next year, and let someone like Pinto develop, or in Belleville, or in a sheltered third-line role. So, and then on defense, there's a rumor. I don't know how much truth there was for it that Seattle, they took Carson Soucy in the expansion draft. And Soucy, I think, would be a great fit. But he has a left shot is the one problem. But if they get Soucy, like for, say, third-round pick or whatever, and they move Zub up with Shabbat and branch him onto his right side where he wants to be, I think that would be a really good top 4.
Yeah. I thought Soucy played on the right side. He is the left shot, but I think he played on the right side.
Maybe he plays both sides.
But yeah, he would be a fantastic body to have on there, and like I think he's like 6'5" as well. So
yeah, it's funny because I actually played against him in baseball growing up. Like he played out in Alberta, and I played from Napanee. So it's like I actually knew who he was, and I saw he got drafted. I'm like, that's cool. Then like a few years later, I'm like, oh shit, he made it to the NHL. Good for him.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and he was massive. Back then, he was kind of more of a string bean. Like he wasn't bulky, but still, like that was him when he was like 19. But good for him. Really and cool. if he becomes an auto center, that'd be pretty cool.
That would be really cool. And I mean, even from a perspective of he was good in Minnesota, he'd be good here. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, that story that would make it all the better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, and like Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak, they're off the board now too.
They have a good blue line. Seattle has a good blue line.
Oh, Seattle has a great blue line. And I think that was kind of their plan is we can stop goals from going in with our blue line, and then we can use our $30 million to get some forwards. And I think it was Steve Dangle that mentioned this. They have $30 million. They can say, okay, we'll take your $6 million contract. Here's the menu. Here's the price. And so, like, you're going to give us this pick, and this pick to take on this much money, no matter who the player is, who this and that is. And that's why they went so cheap, is because they were hoping people would pay just for the money. Like, they're just a bank. And so, yeah, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how Seattle manages this $30 million over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm fascinated because I thought they would have got a few more side deals. Like, it sounds like Francis got a bit greedy on the asking price. So I look at what right after the expansion draft, Philly traded Gostisbehere, who's still a capable NHL player, with a second and I think like a seventh to Arizona. It's like Seattle could have been in, they could have been the Arizona in that deal. It's like, hey, we'll take Gostisbehere for you. Give us a second and a seventh.
Well, yeah, and you look at what Vancouver did. Seattle could have easily taken Louis Eriksson, Jay Beagle, and Antoine Roussel. They easily and taken some stuff for it. And I don't know if Vancouver looked at Arizona because OEL, they wanted OEL, or that just was the money that made sense to come back. I don't know what the thought process was from Benning, but I do think that Seattle definitely could have taken more advantage. But at the same time, now they're a brand new team and they don't have any cap strapped. So
yeah, exactly. They're so cheap, and there's still some really good UFAs available. They can go hard on Landeskog. They can go for Hamilton, and then they ship out, like, if they get Hamilton, they can ship out a Susie or a Dunn. And then, like, I'm just thinking on top of my head, other free agents. I can't think of any other top end ones, but that team would look a lot better for like Landeskog or like a few other solid depth guys, because basically their team is just a bunch of really good middle six guys right now.
Yeah, exactly. And like you could see they sign maybe Landeskog, even Krejci, Blake Coleman, just some of this middle six absolute perfect units, but just kind of have all four lines as your middle six, so it's very balanced. I don't know, it's a really weird build. And like looking at their roster projections, it's like they're all perfect third lines. Like that's what you want to shut down that's like who we're going to throw out with Nick Paul and Connor Brown. Like they're just going to shut down the rest of the league. And I don't know. I think the team's going to work. They're not going to score goals, but I think it's going to work.
Yeah, I don't know who scores goals on that team, but like other than like the top line, I think the projections were Eberle, Gord, and probably Donskoy. Yeah. And like Gord, like amazing third liner, and probably really good second liner. I don't know how he's going to be as a top line center. Eberle's been a proven top six center for his entire career, basically, and then Donskoy is pretty much as a good second liner. After that, though, they have just a bunch of really good third lines. And like nothing, and they do got some young guys that could shine with some more time. Like they got Geeky, they got Appleton, they got like the Fleury brothers on defense, which is really cool to see. But it's really cool. And then they got a few other interesting ones like Alex True. I don't know much about. I just know he's massive. And the fun fact they had listed was he's Ehlers' cousin or something. I'm like, oh, that's I guess fun. Really? Yeah, I'm like, that's a cool thing. Did not know he was Danish. But no, I'm interested to see what they do with this offseason. If they take advantage of some other cap strap teams, like a Tyler Johnson, like he's a Washington native. It makes a lot of sense for them to target him. Like, hey, give us Tyler Johnson, we'll take Cal Foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and that's the thing I would actually like. I wouldn't mind if Ottawa did, if they helped out Tampa again and took Tyler Johnson, who I think could still be a solid middle six center. But if they get like if they get like a Cal Foot or like the dream, like an Eric Chernak type to help out.
That would be awesome.
But there's options. I'm curious to see what Dorian does because his draft so far has been very interesting. So I'm excited to see what he does for this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And like pretty much from here on out it's an open game. He doesn't really have to do anything with UFAs other than Ryan Dzingel if he wants to, which I doubt it.
I doubt it.
And yeah, like I don't think, I mean, unless you're going after that shutdown defenseman or that number one center, Dorian doesn't really have to do anything other than make sure that Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson can play next year. Like, I don't know. I think Dorian's pretty set up for this offseason. And everything he will do isn't because he has to and because it makes the most sense. And I don't know. I just have a good feeling going into this offseason because I feel like Dorian could make a bad trade and we lose assets that like we lost the trade, but I don't see that happening. And I see this offseason as being only uphill. So
yeah, looking at what some of the other GMs have done Like, I don't think Dorian, like, people can kind of poo-poo on his draft and like, oh, you took so-and-so that was ranked 290th or whatever. But like, he didn't just sign Seth Jones to a $9.5 million contract and give up Adam Boakvist in the process and 2 other firsts. So, like, he's not doing stuff like that yet. Like, you can poo-poo on the draft all you want and have your preferences, but he's not ruining the actual roster right now. And I suppose we can actually get into some of the trades if you want.
Yeah, we can. Actually, I think we should do the expansion draft first.
Oh, the actual roster?
Yeah, so I'll just go through all of the teams. You can say something quick about who they selected if you want, and then I can follow up. So Arizona, Tyler Pitlick, and then traded to Calgary for a 4th.
Decent, bottom 6, veteran, defensively sound, works hard. I thought the pick here would have been Fisher, similar player, cheaper and younger. So I don't like. I guess maybe they talked to Calgary beforehand. It's like, hey, we'll take Pitlick for you. If you grab Pitlick, we'll pay you for him. So good for them to get an asset for a guy that he's an NHL player.
Yeah, he is. And the only side deal that was done in this expansion draft was
as of now,
Tyler Pitlick to Calgary for a 4th. So
not quite Shea Theodore, but it's something.
Hayden Fleury from Anaheim.
Yeah, I think most people had this as the pick, especially with Fleury being drafted by Francis a few years ago. It's actually a while ago. I think it was like 2014. But yeah, so. Like he likes the player. And then like we can just skip up to Montreal. They took Cale Fleury. So they got the Fleury brothers together, which is really cool. And they both have some upside still. So personally, I was a big fan of Volkov as a pick, but Fleury, like, I can't complain with that. It's probably the better pick, honestly.
Yeah, I do like the pick, and you got to imagine that them being brothers has something to do with a little bit of leaning towards picking him. So,
sure.
Yeah, I do think it's a good pick. Jeremy Lawson out of Boston.
There's a few options. Like, Lawson was probably the one I was leaning towards. Like, looking at their options, like, maybe they could have gone the UFA route and tried to sign, like, a Mike Riley or Taylor Hall. But, like, up front, like, Kasha was interesting, but he has a lot of injury history. Nick Ritchie's a bit older. Like, Lauzon's just a young, solid defenseman. Like, you can't complain about it.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick as well. So, Will Borgen out of Buffalo.
Honestly, like, unless you want Zemgus Girgensons to be your veteran 4th-line center, like, there was nothing out of Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's probably the best. That or, like, who was it? Was it Colin Miller? And they clearly didn't want to spend any money. So I don't even think Miller's that great, to be honest. So Borgen, young enough. I think he may have to go through waivers, which would be really funny if he doesn't make the team and gets claimed by Buffalo.
That would be really funny.
Which could happen. So it's probably the best pick they could make. Maybe they package him somewhere. But
yeah, I mean, who was available? Okposo, Skinner.
Yeah, like, I guess the only one I looked at was Girgensons because he's a fine bottom 6 set veteran. But Borgen's the safe, cheap pick. So
yeah, exactly. And then Giordano goes to Calgary. I feel like this is kind of like the Carey Price pick that everybody was waiting for. We all kind of thought it was going to happen, but nobody actually thought it was going to happen. So Giordano out of Calgary for the first time he's ever been drafted at 37 years old.
That was a really cool moment because I think a lot of people forget that he never got drafted, and he's been his entire career so far with the Flames.
Yeah.
So seeing him on stage with the jersey and saying, like, first time I've ever been drafted, I'm like, oh, that's actually really cool. He looks really weird in the jersey though. Like, I'm not used to it yet. Him not in Flame jersey.
Yeah, but it looks wrong.
Yeah, it looks weird. But honestly, here's the good pick. Only 1 year left. He's still a very good top 4 defenseman. He's not going to win in Norris like he did a few years ago, but good leader to have. And like looking at the rest of the roster, like the only other one I thought of was Shillington, young guy that's kind of improving. He kind of like a Hayden Fleury type. But like Giordano's he was the logical choice.
And I think Giordano, he has the most accumulative wins above replacement percentage since it's been a tracked stat. And I think it's up to, or no, it's not WAR. I can't think of what stat it was, but it was at like 29 point something, and he had the highest percent, and it was crazy. So yeah,
he's been a very good defenseman for a long time. He's really good.
He has been. And truthfully, I mean, he took a bit of a step back this year, but he's just been getting better with age. Like, he was 36 when he won his first Norris. Like, that's crazy.
And if Seattle stinks and like they get Giordano and he's still capable, you can trade him. Someone's going to take Giordano at half his salary. to a contender if Seattle happens to stink or they try to go for Shane Wright. So like they have options, and he's still a very good leader and a good face of the franchise to start out with.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the Fleury of Seattle. So yeah, great pick by them. One of my favorite and most underrated picks, Morgan Geekie out of Carolina.
Yeah, this is very interesting because I actually really like Geekie, and like obviously a lot of like the analytical nerds on Twitter were like, how is it not Jake Bean? How is it not Jake Bean? Or even someone like Nino Niederreiter, who's a proven like second line player. Yeah. But Geekie, like he's one of these guys that I could see thriving with more ice time.
Yeah.
So this is one of the ones I know a lot of people didn't like the pick, but I'm with you. I actually think it's not that bad of a pick. Like, so I'm excited to see what he can do with some ice time.
I think that if there's a William Karlsson on this team, it's him. 100%. I'm actually going to bring up his stats real quick because I know that wherever he played, he did very well.
So he just lit it up at every level.
So in the AHL last year, as a sophomore there, he put up 42 points in 55 games, so 22 goals, 20 assists.
Awesome.
The year before that, in his rookie season in the AHL, he put up 19 goals and 27 assists in 73 games. So a little bit less points last year, but 20 less games. So there's a huge improvement there. He put up 9 points in 36 games in Carolina this year on a third and fourth line role. Like they're very top heavy on the on the forward front. So they're not looking for him for the offense. They're looking for him for kind of that two-way game. And they got it, and they got 10 points in 35 games.
Yeah. No, like he's a good pick, underrated pick. And like there's definitely some picks we'll get into that are definitely more of head scratchers. And I know some people lumped the Geekie pick in there, which I don't see. Like, yeah, maybe technically Bean's the better option, but if Geekie you see as being a guy that can thrive with some ice time, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of Chicago, we got John Quenneville.
And this is one of the ones I scratch my head at. I do not get this pick whatsoever. He is not a fourth line guy, maybe 25, a UFA. He doesn't have a contract. And from what I can tell, there's no side deal. So I don't know what they took. Like, I thought maybe they take someone like Gaudette, who at least is proven and he has a contract, or even someone like Zadorov, who's very like polarizing. Some people, he's kind of like a Ristolainen light. Like some people love him, some people hate him. But they still young RFA. Like I don't get why they took Quenneville.
Yeah, I think Zadorov, especially because he's 26 and an RFA. I think Zadorov would have been a really good pick because he's another good shutdown guy to throw on that defense core. But I also think they had their defense picked before this selection. So I don't know. I always kind of wonder how they go through the teams and like decide we're going to take a defense from you or we're going to I don't know. I just love to see Ron Francis's mind working and the gears turning.
For sure.
So from Colorado, they select Jonas Donskoy. Or if you were watching the expansion draft, I'm pretty sure it was Jonas Donskoi. So yeah,
Donskoi. They butchered his name, which I don't blame him. Is it kind of a weird name, but sorry.
He's a fantastic.
It's the safe pick.
He's a fantastic pick, and I think that he does a really good job of everything, and so he can play on that first line right wing if they need, or left wing if Eberle wants that right wing, or they can put him in the fourth line on the PK on the power play. Like he can just do anything. So I really like the Donskoy pick.
Yeah, it's like looking at it was the logical one, especially with Colorado trading Graves a few days before the draft. Because to me, it was between those two guys. But Donskoy was just like the safe pick. You know what you're getting with him. He's a top 6 player. And I think he only has 1 year left on the contract. So you're not locked into a long-term commitment with the guy. It's a good pick.
Colton Dach just got drafted to the Chicago Blackhawks with his brother.
Hey, good for
That's
them.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now they have both Dachs and both Joneses.
That's awesome. I didn't think of that.
So yeah, good on Chicago. That's good. And they got him at 62.
They're only at 62.
They're only at 62, and it started 2 hours ago. And
There's
they started at
220 picks. Oh, lordy.
This is going to go on forever. This is ridiculous how long this draft is.
Oh, God.
Where were we? On to Columbus. Gavin Bayreuther. I don't know how this guy is more valuable than Max Domi, but okay. I don't understand this pick at all. I'm sure he'll be a serviceable player for them eventually, but I don't know how you don't take Domi, especially when you still have $30 million to spend when you're done.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I never heard of this guy before the draft. I was very confused by him. Apparently, he played 4 games, and his underlying numbers for those 4 games were very strong. But he's a 29-year-old depth guy that's never really played NHL minutes. And even if they didn't want to commit to Domi because of the money, you can still take a risk on Dean Kukin, who's younger and more proven than Bayreuther, or the Kevin Stenlund, which I thought both of those guys would have made sense, similar to Geeky, that you give them a chance they could flourish. But Domi is the one I had picked because he only has 1 year left on his contract, and even if he stinks and doesn't get back to the 70-point pace he had a few years ago, he's a guy you can flip and someone would pay at least a third for him or something. So I don't even get the Bayreuther pick.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me either. But then Dallas, Jamie Alexiak with a 5 years, $4.6 million contract. I like the pick a lot. I think Jamie Alexiak is going to be a fantastic player for Seattle, but I don't like that 5 years at $4.6 million. I think 3 years at 4.6 or 5 years at 3. I think I would have been comfortable with those, but I don't know. I feel like that's committing a bit too much.
Yeah, I think it's for me, I think it's a 1 year too long. If they gave him the Larson contract, which we'll get to in a bit, but if he got a 4x4, I thought that'd be perfectly fair. So they definitely went a bit higher, and I think he does have more offensive upside. And I think in the bubble last year, he showed how good he can be offensive if given a chance. And the dude's 6'8". He's terrifying.
Yeah, he is.
It's probably the best pick from Dallas because when I was looking at their roster, before the expansion draft, I was they have nothing. They did a really good job. Dickinson was the pick, and they flipped him to Vancouver for a third. So good for them.
And then at that point, it comes down to Ben Bishop or Jamie Alexiak. So I don't know what Ben Bishop's current update is on his injury. I thought he was out for some more time, and then they made him available. Know. And so, I don't really know. I really thought that he was going to be out for more time than he already was. So I don't know.
Alexiak's a good pick, though.
Yeah, absolutely. From Detroit, they pick up Dennis Cholowski. I really like that pick as well. I don't think he's had the best time in Detroit, but he definitely has the opportunity to flourish in Seattle, I guess. Yeah,
what was he, 20th overall 4 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
I know he's had some injury history too. Personally, I would have gone for Troy Stetcher, but seeing what their blue line is right now, I don't think Troy Stetcher would have made the cut.
Yeah.
So going for a younger prospect that maybe can have some upside, I'm not mad with it. To me, this is similar to a geeky pick. Maybe technically someone else is better, but it's also Detroit. You're taking a shot on some guys that just Svechnikov hasn't worked out for them, and there's a few other guys that just haven't really worked out. So no matter who you get from Detroit, it's a project.
Yeah, exactly. Edmonton, they give the 4x4 to Adam Larson.
Great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Adam Larson at 4 years, $4 million. I'm upset that we don't have him. However, we would have acquired him. I'm upset that we don't have him. I think that would have been the perfect fit for Ottawa. Will be an amazing fit for Seattle. So good on Ron Francis for making that call.
Yeah, it's also funny to note that I think Edmonton offered him pretty much the exact same contract, and he just said, "Nah, I'm going to Seattle." He just got out of there so quick.
Yeah, and with the way that things are going, I don't know. I don't blame him.
They've had an interesting offseason.
And again, we'll get into this a little bit, but I can't believe that they traded 20th overall to Minnesota. I can't believe that they didn't take Wallstedt at 20.
Yeah, we'll get into that a bit later, but Wallstedt was definitely probably the big fault, the guy that dropped in this year's draft. Kosa, Detroit traded up, and I thought they were going to get Wallstedt, and they chose Kosa. So like that's interesting in itself. But then, like Wallstedt fell to Edmonton, and they don't really have much goal. Like they're running Mike Smith and Koskinen right now, and I don't know if I know they have one goalie prospect that's doing pretty well in Russia, but Wallstedt's the guy. Like he would have been a perfect fit for Edmonton, and they trade back, and Minnesota takes him.
Yeah,
like I don't get what Holland was doing there.
Me either. It fell right into your lap. There's no way that he should have been available to you.
And I don't even know I think they drafted Xavier Bourgault. Like he's a good player, it's a good pick, but Wallstedt was it just screamed Edmonton. Like it felt ooh.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. Then Florida, Chris Drieger, good old Ottawa guy, 3 years, $3.5 million. We knew this was happening since he started playing good. Bobrovsky has the no move clause. Seattle's not taking that contract no matter what. This is quite a simple pick. Good on Drieger. He deserves the contract, and I hope to see him do really good. So
this is the worst kept secret of the draft. Like everyone has known for I feel like a month now that Drieger is the guy going to Seattle. So good for him. Hopefully he thrives in like a legit, like this is his crease now.
Yeah, exactly. LA, Curtis McDermott. That's he's not going to be a roster defenseman for them. He's one of those guys that you love to have on the team. Like he's a really good locker room guy, but again on the ice he's a Josh Brown kind of guy. So
he's not even as good. Like
go ahead.
Yeah, he's like looking just at the underlying numbers, and from what I know of McDermott, he's more of a glorified enforcer. Well, Josh Brown at least has some defensive capabilities. Like I think McDermott actually may have the worst analytics in the entire league. So this is another one. They're pretty bad, and like he's a glorified face puncher, and good for him. He got taken, but I look at LA's roster and Kale Clegg's right there if you wanted a younger defenseman with upside, and I believe he's cheaper. And then even like Blake Lizotte or Carl Brunstrom up front. Yeah. And if you didn't want a young guy, you could have gone even someone like an Austin Wagner, who's a decent third line energy dude. So I don't get this pick personally. It's one of those ones that I was like, oh, that's got to be a side deal. But nope.
Some of them I don't know. Again, it's all about they have their roster and we have to take somebody from you. I don't know.
Exactly.
So we've already talked about Carson Soucy from Minnesota, Cale Fleury from Montreal, Calle Jarnkrok from Nashville. I love this pick. I think
the same here.
Jarnkrok, he's been playing in the league since he was draft +1, I believe, which is really where was he drafted? I don't remember.
I think he's like a third round pick.
Middle of the second round, 51st overall. So from his draft +1, he's played every year in the NHL, and he's done good. He's always been serviceable for Nashville. So I think that it was a pretty easy pick there. Unless you wanted to take some money, get a potentially good player in Forsberg or Duchesne, but either way, or Johansson. Sorry.
Yeah, if they manage to get a side deal type thing to take Duchesne or Johansson, then that makes sense. Because I believe one of those guys has to be able to bounce back. At least I hope so for Nashville. Yeah. But with no side deals, Jarnkrok was the obvious pick for me at least. Maybe Yakov Trenin for a young guy with some fun upside. But Jarnkrok's a proven player, and he's a third line center, second line winger type. Yeah. Love the pick.
And it's official now that the Rangers have bought out Tony DeAngelo, so that's good.
Thank God.
He's going to sign in Montreal tomorrow.
Oh, no doubt.
Jordan Eberle got taken from the Islanders. I was quite surprised that him and Josh Bailey weren't protected. Obviously, they're kind of in a spot that they want to get rid of some cap. Obviously, we saw that with Andrew Ladd. So, Jordan Eberle was quite an easy pick here. I also I don't know. I think he's a UFA, but Casey Cizikas was another good pick there. But you can't really pass on Jordan Eberle there. But at the same time, they passed on Max Domi. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think Eberle the reason I think they're both exposed, him and Bailey, were exposed over Clutterbuck and Martin, which raised some eyebrows. But Lou doesn't care what anyone else thinks. We all know that, and he wanted to clear some money, and he just cleared. Like I think the last few days with trading Letty, having Eberle claimed, and trading Ladd's contract, he cleared $15 million in cap space.
Yeah.
So Islanders are going to make a big play at somebody, and like he's a legit just like Mr. Consistent second line, like 60-point guy. He's a good player.
Yeah, he is, and I mean. It'll be good to see him in Seattle. I'd like to see him somewhere that he might be able to play with some better teammates and actually like drive a line. I don't know. Eberle's been one of those guys that I always wanted to see succeed, but he's just always kind of been a step away from where he should be.
Yeah, exactly. I feel you.
So moving on to the Rangers, we've got Colin Blackwell, another bottom six guy. I feel like we've talked about Colin Blackwell 7 times already.
I like this pick. I like it.
I do as well.
Yeah, because the only other option to me, because I think was probably Julien Gauthier, who's another like kind of Cholowski, like high draft pick, hasn't really panned out.
Yeah.
But so if they took Gauthier, I would understand it. But Blackwell kind of had a coming out party this year. He actually played really well for the Rangers after coming over from Nashville. So like it's a good pick, and I'd like to see what he can do in a more prominent role.
Yeah, absolutely. And like he'll get it. Like everybody here will get the chance to be who they can be. So that's good. Yeah. We've already talked about Joey Decord. That's a huge loss. That's
makes me sad.
Yeah. Out of Philadelphia, Carson Twarynski.
Never heard of him until this pick.
Me either.
But like for Philly, it's interesting because obviously he's not a great player, and I don't think his underlying numbers. Like he is young, so he can maybe grow. But like I think I brought it up before, like we just saw Gostisbehere get dealt with a second and a 7th to take the contract. So I don't know why like Philly was willing to do that. I don't know why Seattle didn't do that, because Gostisbehere is still a solid second pair offensive D man. But and like maybe they could have gone for like JVR, good vet. He had a bounce back year, and it's only 2 years at $7 million. Now, I know they don't want to spend money, but taking Twarynski just seems weird.
Yeah, it was a weird pick. And I'm just seeing this comment here from Madison Roach. Okay, I completely missed yesterday. I didn't even know the draft started. I can't find who the number one. So first overall was Owen Power to Buffalo. But yeah, Philadelphia, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but Voracek just got traded to Columbus for Cam Atkinson. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting trade. I don't really know what to think of it because it's like, wasn't Voracek drafted by the Blue Jackets?
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny he's going back. But like I honestly don't really know what to say because I think both. I guess I'd go with Philly because I think Atkinson has a bit more upside and is a bit younger.
Yeah, I would guess. But Voracek could also bounce back and have a great year. So
for sure,
I don't know. Out of Pittsburgh, they select Brandon Tanev. I really like this. He's going to be a great personality to have.
Yeah, Brandon we all saw him on. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the most lovable guys in the league, and a great player to have who probably will play on their third line, just being a tough guy, and he can score and he can produce some offense, but definitely just being a good shutdown guy for them.
Yeah, he's a very good player. Like I think the only issue with him, like he has one of those like weird bottom 6 contracts where you sign for like 25 years. So like he does have like I think he has like 4 years left on the contract, but he's a very good player. Like he's like the epitome of a third line 2-way like heart and soul guy. Like, yeah. And we all saw him on the stage like joking around. Just seems like a big goofball. Like he's gonna be a fan favorite in Seattle.
Absolutely. Out of San Jose, Alexander True.
Yeah, kind of mentioned this before. He's a 6'5" giant.
Yeah,
and bit on the younger side, I think he's about 24. Maybe something there. I thought the obvious pick here would have been maybe Dylan Gambrell because I think he's from Washington State, and he's only on a 1-year contract, or even someone like Ryan Donato.
Yeah, I expected somebody out of that bottom 6 or something, but yeah, surprisingly, I was quite surprised with the Alexander True pick, but. Hopefully it turns out for them.
Yep, hopefully.
Out of St. Louis, Vince Dunn, finally out of St. Louis. I feel like he's so young, but I feel like he's been on the trade block as long as Dumba. Like,
yeah, for sure. Like I'm actually surprised like how many games he has played. Like every time I think of him, I think he's like a Jake Bean type that's just buried. But he's played like over 200 plus games, I think.
Yep.
So it's like obviously the fun, sexy pick is Tarasenko here, but with his injury histories and the cap hits, it's such a risky pick that like I personally would have gone Dunn. I wish they went Tarasenko because it's more fun and interesting. Yeah. But no, Dunn's a very good player.
Yeah, and the easy pick. So
yeah, for sure.
Out of Tampa Bay, this is probably the hardest decision to make for the whole expansion draft is what to do with Tampa. So Seattle helps Tampa. They take $5 million. That's fantastic. Seattle takes Yanni Gourde, who is a fantastic player.
Very good player.
And it pretty much came down to Gourde, Palat, or Killorn. And I think I really expected it to be Killorn with that $4.4 million cap hit, 17 points in 19 playoff games. Like, that's fantastic. And yeah, Nova Scotian guy, so I was really rooting for him. But yeah, they take Yanni Gourde, who will be a great fit no matter what. So I like it.
Yeah, Yanni Gourde's one of those, or like undrafted, small guy, plays with a lot of heart. He's yipping around. Like, he's just like every team wants a Yanni Gourde type guy. So him getting taken, like, he was my personal pick. I thought he made a lot of sense. Yep. Yeah, maybe they could have gone for a young guy like the Cal Foot or Alex Brule. Yep. But Gourde, he's a proven player. Probably like a really good 1B center. Like, if you like, it looks like Seattle's going to have like 3 second lines or 3 like second, third line type thing. So Gourde's an amazing player, and we also how good he was in the playoffs. So, but like, love the pick.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't know if everybody remembers right after the Vegas expansion draft, but they didn't have a good team. Like, they didn't have even half the guys that they won or went to the Cup finals with. Like, they had at the end of that year, they had a second, third, and fourth line. Since then, they have built a first line above the rest of that team. So, like, I don't know. I feel like that's the way Seattle is going with it. So they have all their depth pieces now. Now they just have to get the top end. And it's a really weird way of going at it, but it worked for Tampa. Or it worked for Vegas, sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Interesting to see how it goes.
Jared McCann, Toronto Maple Leafs legend.
No, it's the right pick here. 1 year left, kind of had a breakout year, and he's like one of the analytical darlings of the league. Yeah. But so it's a safe pick, obvious pick for me at least. But I think the only thing I know a lot of Leaf fans would kind of PO'd about it is because he just traded for the dude. So in a vacuum, it makes sense. Instead of trading what was apparently like a first and a third to keep Kerfoot, you trade a B prospect and like I think 7th to lose nobody. So, but the only thing I don't get is I think protect McCann and Kerfoot using the 7-3-1 scheme and expose Hall and Dermott. I thought was the right play. Then you get to have a really good forward group. And if they take Justin Hall, like I personally think he's propped up by Muzzin. I don't think he's fantastic. Yeah. But like Dubas made his choice in the bubble. It's a really smart move to acquire him. But then just to lose a really good player for nothing is really funny.
Yeah. So there's 2 ways to look at it. You could look at it as Toronto lost Hollander and a 7th in the expansion draft, or you can look at it like they lost Jared McCann in the expansion draft because they were stupid and protected Hall because I don't know. Like, Justin Hall is a good serviceable defenseman. He was fine in the top 4 for Toronto. Yep. But you don't protect a 30-year-old making that money who is your 4th, 5th, maybe 6th best defenseman. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Would you rather keep McCann, Kerfoot, and Engvall all together, or Mikheyev, or whoever, or Hall? Like, I don't get that at all.
Yeah, for me, like if I believe Hackstall is the head coach of Seattle, and he was the defensive coach for the Leafs, so he knows the defense group pretty well. Yeah. But if he took Hall, because he is signed to 2 more years at $2 million. Yeah. And so it is, you know what you got with Muzzin and Hall. They do work together. But I know Dermott and Muzzin's numbers were really good as well when they played together. And you also have Tim Liljegren, who Leaf fans thought was the next Carlson, and he's just kind of hanging out in limbo. Like, he needs a chance eventually. And then
Yep.
if they happen to take Dermott because he's younger, then you have Sandin, who looks really good. Like, I don't personally get it, but Dubas made it. It's fun to kind of poke at, pick the scab for the Leafs, but they made their choice.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Vancouver, Cole Lind was selected.
I thought it was the smart pick. Like, there was not really anyone to choose from. And he's one of these, like, if he gets a chance, he's like a geeky type. If he gets a chance, he could tear it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Good young player, got a ton of potential. I really thought that they were going to go after Holtby, maybe get some salary retention there. But yeah, either way, Cole Lind is the right pick for me.
Yeah.
Out of Washington, they take Vitek Vanacek, which I was very surprised that he was available.
Well, because they had to protect either Vanacek or Samsonov.
Oh, I thought Samsonov was exempt.
No, Oh, yeah, and also, I don't know if you saw this, but just to kind of off track, that Joey Daccord was only had to be protected, or he was like able to be picked because he played that one game like 2 years ago. So if he didn't play that game, he would have been exempt.
That's terrible. That's heartbreaking.
It is, but it's also if he may not have signed his contract if he didn't play that game. Like, that was part of the deal to burn the 1 year of his contract. So it sucks, but when I saw that, it made me more sad.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, Vanacek's a good pick here. Like, with the goalies they picked, the only one I'm surprised they didn't take was Kakkonen from Minnesota. Yeah. But they got Joey Daccord to be the waiver exempt goalie, so it's kind of pick your poison there between the two of them. And Vanacek, I know a lot of people thought he was the obvious choice. Like, Nick Jensen, there's a few blue liners that were very interesting to look at, but like, I like the Vanacek pick.
Yeah, I do as well. I think it's a smart decision. Yep. And then from Winnipeg, Mason Appleton. I like this pick as well.
Disrespected DeMello, though.
Oh, 100%. A, I don't know how he wasn't protected. B, I don't know how he wasn't claimed.
Like, yeah, DeMello's a very good defensive top forward dude that signed out to a reasonable cap hit. Like, I know Stanley's younger, maybe some more upside, and he is a giraffe on skates. But yes. DeMello, you know what you have, and Winnipeg's right side defense is not great. Yeah. So if DeMello was taken, they were in trouble. But Appleton, like, I'm not bashing Appleton. He's a very good player.
Yeah, I do think Appleton will be a good fit in Seattle. Excited to see what he does there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so yeah, that wraps up the entry draft or the expansion draft. And so quickly, we can also go over all the first round picks. The ones that if you missed our mock draft on YouTube, check it out. But so for some of the obvious picks, I think we should just kind of skim by them. Owen Power at 1, everybody knows everything about him. So yeah, we can kind of jump into that. Obviously, Owen Power goes first to Buffalo. Everybody knew that at 6'5", towering. Everybody's Victor Hedman type now. So, and then Matty Beniers. That was kind of everybody expected it. Nobody really.
The safe pick.
Yeah. So yeah, he'll be a good center in Seattle. And then, wow. At third overall,
this shocked me.
At third overall, the Anaheim Ducks select Mason McTavish.
Breaks my heart, but good for him.
I'm very happy for him. I don't know if I would have drafted him third overall, but he's one of my favorite players in this draft. So good on him. Good on Anaheim for doing it. Left a lot of players on the board and kind of screwed up the whole draft board from here on out, really.
Yeah, like that was the first, he went that high. Like, I knew people really liked him, but going that high, I thought he may be available at 10.
Yeah. And then fourth to the New Jersey Devils, which
no surprise.
Josh Norris had a front row seat to watch, was Luke Hughes going to play with Jack in New Jersey. I love this.
It makes sense on so many levels.
Oh, yeah, and we all knew that Jack Hughes was pushing for New Jersey to draft his brother, and they did. So I love it. And watching that celebration, watching how happy Jack Hughes was actually quite awesome. So
did you see that Luke's jersey that he wore was just Jack's jersey?
I did.
He 86. I'm like, wait, isn't that Jack's number? I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool.
I thought that was funny.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah. So yeah, great pick there. Kent Johnson to Columbus. I was really surprised with this. I'm really glad that they did this because this is basically the hole that they've been trying to fill since Duchesne left. So
Yep. And I mocked this one correct. I had Johnson going to Columbus.
Did you? I don't remember the lists.
I'm just going off memory. I'm probably lying. But no, I like Johnson because Johnson feeding, like, they need a number one center. I don't know if Johnson sticks at center, but if he does, like, Johnson is probably the best hands in this class. If you can put it all together, feeding line A is so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even Voracek now. So
true.
If he sticks around for a while. At number 6, it was a very fitting pick, but I was very surprised that it wasn't Wallstead. Simon Edvinsson, 6'5" offensive defenseman going to Detroit. I love this pick.
I love it just because I'm picturing he's also a pretty risky one because I think he has a lot of brain farts.
Yeah.
But if he puts it all together, a top pair of Seider, Edvinsson, those guys will just kill people.
Yeah.
So, and they have some good offense upside. Like, no, I was a bit shocked at the time, but when I actually sat down and thought about it, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, as we'll get to later, it wasn't much of a loss for not taking Wallstead there. So up to 7, we've got San Jose taking William Eklund. I can't believe Eklund fell this far. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the easiest pick to make, but it should have been the pick made everywhere from 3. William, he's just going to be a fantastic player in this league. And I really just don't understand why he fell. Obviously, they look at him a lot more than I do, but I don't know.
Yeah, apparently, I think they came out and said that they personally had him ranked number 2 on their board, so they were pumped to get him at, what was that, 6? 7th. Wow.
Yeah.
Good crazy for the Sharks.
Yep. There's your Tim Stutzel.
Yeah.
And then LA, they draft Brent Clark, which I really like that pick.
It's a really good pick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay, I'll go ahead. They have probably the best prospect cover. Like, Ottawa's is, I'd say, deeper, but they have more probably high-end, high-risk, like, upside picks.
Yeah.
But their blue line, or the defensive prospects, wasn't the best, so I love the Clark pick.
Yeah, and he's going to have a lot of good names to learn under. Doughty knows what he's doing. He just can't do it anymore. And so it'll be fun to see him in LA. Hopefully we can maybe someday see a Clark and Doughty pairing. That'd be pretty fun to watch. And then Arizona made a fantastic pick in Dylan Guenther. And I love this. He's coming in to replace Phil Kessel on his way out, I'd imagine, in the next 2 or 3 years. It's pretty much a no-brainer. I had him at 3. He's just pure goal scorer, and there's not much else to say.
Arizona can't score, so they need to get someone that can eventually score. And so this basically just solidified because most people had the top 9 going in, like these 9 players going in some form of this order, and it went as a lot of people predicted. So, like, no surprises in the top 9. A few like high lower than I thought. But the draft really opened up with Ottawa at 10.
Yeah, so at 10, Ottawa comes up and selects Tyler Boucher, and we all yelled at our screen and said, "Who?"
Yeah.
That's it. And
especially after he said the U.S. development program, I'm like, okay, they're going to go with Lucius. And then they said Boucher. And I'm like, oh, I like Boucher in this. I thought he'd be there in the second round. But apparently from the reports that there's teams that wanted him shortly after Ottawa. And we said this before at the top when we started this. If he's the guy for Ottawa and they really like him, all power to Trent Man and Dorian.
Yeah, and we've seen this with Kachuk. We've seen this with Sanderson. We've seen this with Pinto. We've seen this with Sokolov. We've seen this with Clevin. We've seen, stop judging the picks.
At least wait until they play some games.
Yeah, even if it's a reach, you got to have some trust. I feel like Tyler Boucher got a lot better treatment than Jake Sanderson did last year. So good on Sens Twitter for that.
From what I saw, people were saying he's one of the guys that if he played a full season, he could have been one of these late risers.
Yeah.
It could have been like, oh, wait, this guy, big frame, plays hard, scores goals. If he stayed healthy and was able to play the full season, he could have been a riser. So this is a home run swing, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's either going to go over the green wall or it's just going to be a single up to first. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I really like the pick. I really do.
I love the player. I love the player. Nothing
Yeah.
against him at all.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I love the player. I don't necessarily love the pick, but if it's the right pick to make, then they made the pick. So, yeah, I do like it. So, Cole Sillinger goes to Columbus. This was I
Another
like
good
it.
pick.
Another son of a former NHLer going.
Yeah.
And yeah, it works
Kind
really
of,
well in Columbus. Another good center coming up the middle.
yeah.
So
Kind of a jack of all trades type center. And if they have a center depth of Johnson 1, Sillinger 2 in the next 3 years or so, they're laughing. Columbus had a field day yesterday. Like, wow. So
yeah, Columbus had themselves quite the day. Holy cow!
Like, hats off to Yarmo for that day.
Yeah. And then Calgary at number 12 drafts Coronado. I like that pick as
Good
well.
pick.
A little higher than some had him, some lower maybe. He's kind of one of those guys that you could see anywhere from 8 to 25. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like he's a goal scorer. I believe he's going to Harvard. So see how it goes. Yep. Hopefully, this is not another Adam Fox situation where they pick a college kid that wants out.
Yeah,
because that was my one issue with Coronado. He's a New York City native, and it seems like all the college guys from New York want to go to New York.
Yeah,
best of luck to Calgary. I hate to, but best of luck to Calgary for that.
And then at 13, Buffalo drafts Isaac Rosen, who is, I think he was a bit of a reach. I don't know what his.
I think mostly late, like mid late 20s. I think like some people had him as a second round, but like I think he was more of an analytical like draft nerd pick. So if that's a good sign for Buffalo fans that if you get drafting someone like this, that you're using a bit more of the analytical side of stuff. So I think he's a solid player. I don't know much about him because he was in that range from like past 10 and before this like all this pick. So I'm like he's gone. I'm not going to look too much into him.
Yeah, exactly. And then Detroit moves up and drafts Sebastian Cossa. I was amazed that Yzerman didn't draft Wallstead. I don't know.
Yeah, this is what a lot of people were worried about.
If that he fell this far or that they didn't draft him already. Like
if you told me Cossa goes in the mid-teens, I would have believed you because that's where I think most people had him going. But the fact that he goes in the mid-teens before Wallstedt is what shocked me. Like, I know he was a late riser, and he is like 6'6", athletic, and people were saying like he's just getting better and better, like a late riser, or a late bloomer. So Yzerman knows what he's doing. I know not to criticize anything Yzerman does. So, like, let's see how it goes. Interested to see how Wallstedt and Cossa develop.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Like all these young goalies now. Like we got Spencer Knight coming in. We've got these two goalies. We've got Yaroslav Askarov. Like so many are being drafted so high. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Brennan Othman goes to the Rangers. I like this pick as well a lot. And they were the team that was said to be in on Boucher. So
yeah, like Othman's one of those guys where depending on which board, like this draft got really opened up, like we said, after the 9, where some people had guys rated in the teens, some had them early second. So, like Othman, I think I saw him as high as like 13, mostly in the mid 20s. I like the pick. I personally don't know too much about him, but good for the Rangers.
Yep. That's going to be a lot of this list for me. From here on out, I don't know too much about many of them.
We can just kind of cycle through the names.
Yeah, so St. Louis gets Zachary Bolduc. Pretty good pick. Winnipeg gets Chaz Lucius. I'm surprised that he fell this far. He was a consensus top 12 pick, I'd say.
Most people had him as like a guy that could potentially jump into the top 10.
Yeah.
So he's a goal scorer, the center.
Yeah, he definitely is. And Winnipeg got a fantastic player there at 17. Yep. And like him and Perfetti, it's gonna be very good. Yeah. Nashville picks up Fedor Svechkov. I like that pick as well.
Solid 2-way defensive minded forward, plays all 4 positions.
Yep. Minnesota somehow gets Wallstead this late.
God.
That
Minnesota.
is such a perfect pick.
Yeah, because they apparently aren't too high on Kokkonen that they'd leave him exposed over Talbot. So now they got the guy. So they got Talbot and Kokkonen for the next few years, and then hopefully in probably 3-4 years, Wallstead comes on over and becomes their goalie. So good for Minnesota.
And then good for Boston picking up Fabian Lysell at 21. Like, what?
Yeah, this guy was all over the draft board. Depending on who you talk to or what list you looked at, he could have been as high as a top 3 pick or as low as like 30th.
Yep.
Like, this guy could be the Pasternak of the draft, where we look in like 5 years. It's like, how did Pasternak go 28th? How did Lysell go 22? Or no, 20?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what he does with Boston, because obviously they've got such an identity, and I don't really think Lysell fits that identity. But then you come in and look at like Taylor Hall. He doesn't really fit that either, but he's doing really good in Boston. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I love the pick. And then Edmonton picks up Xavier Bourgault, who I don't know anything about, truthfully.
Yeah, I know he's ranked. He was ranked around this range, like mid-20 type pick. The only thing about it, it's like I'm shocked Edmonton. Like we said, I'm shocked Edmonton traded down to lose Wallstedt and take another center.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. Edmonton had Wallstedt in their lap and said, never mind. And like, you just passed up an opportunity to have, say in 2010, I guess it would be Crosby, Malkin, and Fleury. Like, you just pass that up, or even better than Fleury. Like, I don't get it.
No, this guy is reportedly. Like, I think the only reason he fell was some people started questioning, did he just develop early and that's his peak? But I don't see how he falls that far. Like, I don't know if there's some personality thing or like character thing, but from all counts, like this is just a steal for Minnesota. Or that's a steal for Minnesota, and Edmonton just kind of pooped the bed.
Ottawa just selected with the 74th overall pick Oliver Johansson.
Sounds like a Swede.
17-year-old Swede, 6 feet tall and 183 pounds. He
Average.
is a left-handed center.
Don't know anything about him.
He played 15 games over 3 leagues last year and put up 13 points. So, yeah, I don't know anything about him either, but there's what we have. He's only ranked by FC Hockey and McKean's Hockey at 285 and 152.
That's pretty high for Ottawa.
I don't understand Ottawa this draft. I'm not going to judge it, but I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, like I haven't been looking at the draft board and seeing who's available, so I can't comment too much. But
yeah, fair enough.
So I don't know who's on the board, who they passed on, and I knew enough about most of the prospects around Ottawa's picks in like the second, third round. So like once at that point, like same with last year's draft, like once we got into like the 4th, 5th, it's just kind of free game.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's the name to look out for. Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So Dallas at 23 took Wyatt Johnston. So another good pick there.
It's probably. I know some people thought it was a big reach because he's one of the guys kind of like how Ottawa drafted. I already forget his name. The defenseman we drafted.
Ben Rogers.
He didn't play it. Yeah, he didn't play at all this year. Wyatt Johnston. I think. Well, he played at the U18s. That's the only thing he played, and did pretty decent there. So I don't know anything about the guy because he barely played.
Yeah. Florida picks up Mackie Samoskevich. I love that.
Don't know anything about him.
So
it's a great name, though.
Yeah, I love the name, so that's a win for Florida.
Yep.
Columbus. So here we're kind of going to see some people that a lot of people had in the teens kind of fall down to the late 20s. So Corson Kuhlman's drafted 25th by Columbus. That was
good right shot defenseman.
Yeah, that's a really good pick by Columbus, and especially with all these defensemen that are on their way out. We haven't heard anything about Werenski, but with the way Columbus is
sticks around.
I imagine he sticks around, but I don't know. Anything can happen with this Columbus team right now. Carson Lambos to Minnesota. What a fantastic pick by Minnesota.
Yeah, he's one of these guys at the start of the year. He was a potential top 10 pick with like Clark and Hughes and all these other guys. But I think he had a pretty bad stint over in Finland, and people started souring on him. So he could be a major steal.
Yeah, which we've heard a couple times now. So about those players in Finland. And then Nashville, who Zachary Leroux could have gone anywheres. And it was really cool to see where he actually went. I know a lot of people were looking for him in Montreal, and we'll definitely get to the Montreal pick here in a minute.
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
But yeah, Leroux was going to be great if he can figure out his discipline and some other stuff.
That's the thing.
But all the potential is there for him. He is a great hockey player. Yeah, there's some stuff he's got to work on.
Yeah, like obviously he's young, so it could just be some immaturity. But hockey wise, he's likely to be a very good power forward and probably should have gone a bit higher. But guys that got suspended 4 times, like I think one was a fight, one was flipping off like the crowd, and another was spitting on a dude.
Yeah,
like that's not just like whoops, I hit someone hit from behind, which is bad. But it's like, okay, you're an idiot.
Yeah, now you're just
so hopefully he fixes on that
past a game of hockey.
Yeah.
And then Colorado picks up Oscar Olausen, who I seen him going higher in quite a bit of mock drafts. But yeah, I don't know too much about him. Same with New Jersey and Chase Stillman. Not sure if he's related to Riley Stillman, but yeah, I'm not sure about him.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Olausen don't know much about. I just know he was ranked around that range.
Yeah. Vegas picks up Zach Dean.
Solid center.
And then, yeah, that's going to be a really good pick for Vegas. Hopefully they finally get that Cody Glass or Nick Suzuki that they keep trying for.
If only they drafted a Nick Suzuki. That would be nice.
Yeah, if only.
If only.
And then we're going to skip one pick and go to the last pick of the first round. Chicago had Nolan Allen. That was a good pick, I guess. I think he was a little higher than he was ranked, but
yeah, I think he was basically whoever auto drafted. It's the same thing. This guy was, I think, ranked in like the 150s. So yeah, Ottawa didn't have the biggest reach of the first round.
Exactly.
People at least knew who Tyler Boucher was.
Yeah. And then, so for the second last pick of the round, Montreal came out and they drafted Logan Mailloux.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Mailloux recused himself or tried to recuse himself from the draft for what he did over in Sweden with the OHL. He's supposed to play for London. OHL's canceled for COVID reasons. Goes over to London and has this consensual sex with a girl, an 18-year-old. But during it, he takes pictures without her knowledge and then shows his teammates on the Swedish team the pictures, and then her personal information gets out, like what she looks like, where she, like all this stuff. So he gets convicted in Swedish court for, I forget the charge, like evasion of privacy and like public distribution of incriminative photography. So that came out a few weeks before the draft, and multiple teams took him off the do not draft list. So and then he came up with a statement saying, "Don't draft me. This is an honor to get drafted, and I'm not mature enough. I need to learn a lesson and work on myself." Which, to his credit, he probably could have done a bit more, because I know there is some rumors or statements that he was pretty dismissive of the girl. So that's not a good look. But he tried to take himself out of the draft, and then Bergevin saw that this guy, hockey-wise, he's a solid player, but he saw he fell to them, thought he was the best player, and they took him. And when they asked why they took him, he's like, he was the best player available. So yeah, this is a bad pick. Like, not a hockey pick, like not a bad hockey pick. They just like, this doesn't look good for the league.
Yeah, at all. And like I did see the point that he can't renounce himself from the draft officially, but the league can.
The league can put out a memo that says, "Hey, idiot GMs, because you're all dumb. Take this Logan Mailloux. If you guys have him on your list, take him off." We have the Chicago Blackhawks crap that's going on right now still, and this just doesn't make, especially with this new ESPN deal. And when you draft a pick and you have to, first thing you do is put out a statement about why you drafted the pick. It's not a good pick.
Yeah, and also worth mentioning that Marc Bergevin was a big piece in the Chicago Blackhawks organization in 2010.
Yeah, and then there's also, especially people tend to forget, like there was the rumor that they tried to get a hold of Tony DeAngelo either through a trade or Rangers would buy him out and they signed him. And then a few years ago, if you remember, there was the Slava Voinov thing where Slava Voinov was blacklisted from the league for domestic assault against his wife, goes to KHL, and then there's rumors Montreal's trying to get him to come back.
Yeah.
So all this with Bergevin involved and at the helm, Montreal can't talk about high character. A team that has league legends and renowned character leaders in Beliveau and Lafleur. Now Bergevin's is drafting and being involved with all these types of guys. It's disgusting.
It really is. And like, I just don't understand how Bergevin thinks that anything is right about it. Like, and again, Bergevin for that and the league for even allowing it. And I think we're going to see 100% another Mitch Miller situation that this pick is renounced in a couple days.
Yeah, like I don't think it's as bad. Like what Mitch Miller did was horrendous, and he should be not allowed in the league. Like Mailloux can learn from this, and I think second chances. He deserves a second chance, but he doesn't deserve to be drafted in the first round on national television. This guy should sit out the year. Try have receipts that show you went to counseling, you learned your lesson, you put the effort in, you apologize to the victim. Like this girl, it just shows that this girl gets assaulted. Can't say assaulted, but violated by this guy, by this hockey player. But his hockey talents come before what he did. So if you're a good hockey player, you can get away with whatever you want.
It wouldn't have been that big of a problem, even if they did it in the first pick of the second round. But Marc Bergevin did it on national television.
Yep.
Like, he just gave that guy all the fame in the world. And I'm going to give credit to Logan Mailloux. He didn't want it. This isn't his fault that he got drafted. And he is taking the right steps into making his way into the NHL. I listened to the live stream this morning, but you can't pick him like that. Like, this isn't on him at all anymore. This is about Marc Bergevin.
Yeah, and like from apparently they asked why didn't they pick him in the second round, so it's not like on like national TV in the big stage. He said there were some teams that would probably pick him in the second round. So we're dunking on Montreal right now. If someone else picked him in the second round, we'd be dunking equally on them. So yeah, I don't get what he's doing, especially it was a fun night. Like auto drafted Boucher, that's fun. So and so drafted this guy, that's fun. And then it's like, oh, just such a sour taste. And then especially right after when Bowman announced the pick for Chicago, he was surrounded by like a wall of like girls. I don't even know what that was about. And it's just like that's a really weird optic right now. You're under like all this scrutiny. The last two picks were just really.
It was a rough end to the night and left a sour taste in my mouth going to bed.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's if you for some reason haven't been caught up with this story, there it is. But we can move on to the last trades we've seen over the couple days, and then we can end this off. We've been going for quite a while already.
Yeah.
But so first off, there was the three-way trade a little bit ago that sent Ryan Ellis to Philly, Philippe Myers and Cody Glass to Nashville, and Nolan Patrick to Vegas. I like this trade a lot from pretty much every perspective, really. Maybe not Nashville, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think Philly does a good job. They get rid of Myers. Like Patrick, he was pretty healthy this year, but he did not do well. And Myers is just like a solid 4 or 5 defenseman. Yeah. And Ellis, he is 29, I think, signed for 6 more years. But he's still a legit number one defenseman.
Yeah. So
great trade for Philly. And then Nashville flips Patrick to Vegas for Glass, which is good because Patrick, Vegas wasn't in the expansion draft, so they didn't have to protect him, and they get exemption with Cody Glass. So I like that. I actually like that for Nashville. And pick your poison between Patrick and Glass. Neither of them have really panned out yet. So change the scenery for the guys. Hope they both do well.
Yeah, absolutely. From an outside perspective, it's so frustrating to see Philly trade Patrick, because if Tim Stützle was injured for the next couple of years on and off, it would be so hard to trade him. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, you get attached to these guys. I'm sure Philly fans like had high hopes for the second overall pick, but like eventually you got to move on. Like we're probably going to do something similar with Logan Brown in the next few days here.
Yeah.
So I know some people, I'm attached to him still. It's going to be sad for me to see him go, but for both parties, it's probably best to move on. And that's what Philly did with Patrick.
Yeah, exactly. And so the next trade we had was Arizona acquired Andrew Ladd's contract. I don't imagine that he's going to be a roster player for them, but he might be. I don't know. Andrew Ladd's contract, 2021 second, 2022 second, and a 2022 third. So
great trade for Arizona. Like getting
New
all
York
those
acquires cap space.
Yeah. Lou just like, I don't care about these draft picks. They're garbage. Get rid of Ladd. And Arizona gets like, man, before the draft, they had like 10 second round picks in this year's and next year's draft. It was absurd.
Yeah.
They had all the second round picks. But it's a good move for Arizona. Like Ladd, I don't even know if he's actually playing in the minors or if he's hurt. I don't know what's going on with him. But he's basically just a contract now. So it's a good move for both sides. It's a lot for the Islanders to give up, but they're in win now mode. They don't care about the picks.
It is official that Sam Reinhart has been traded to Florida for next year's first and Devin Levi.
Oh, Ottawa could have done that.
I'm very upset. I would have given.
It would have been like 10th overall, and like
10, but
I would have given 10th overall, and that would have been like Levi would have been like Mandalazy or Maryline. Yeah. So Mandalazy and 10th overall for Reinhart, I would have done it in a heartbeat.
That's upsetting.
Ristolainen got more than Reinhart.
Ristolainen got more than Reinhart.
Oh god, that. Like,
that's awesome.
Like we can go into the Ristolainen trade right now. Just Ristolainen's a very polarizing player. Like some people love him because he's just big and throws hits. Analytics hate him because he's not good. But like we just said, he got 13th overall from Philly, a second round pick, I think, in next year's draft, and Robert Hagg, who's just he's just a run of the mill defenseman.
Yeah,
just plays on your bottom pair. You're not going to hate having him. And Philly gets Ristolainen. So hopefully Ristolainen can turn around. He was on Buffalo, which probably doesn't help. But it's how does Ristolainen go for more than Reinhart?
I have no idea. And like Ristolainen, I was genuinely surprised that he brought back positive assets, let alone a first, a second, and his replacement.
A guy.
And
yeah,
I want to talk about this from Philadelphia's perspective. Philadelphia paid. So there was also the Shane Gostisbehere trade, which was Philadelphia sent Gostisbehere, a second, and a seventh to Arizona for nothing.
Yeah.
So Philadelphia trades a first, a second, another second, a seventh, and Shane Gostisbehere for a worse version of Shane Gostisbehere.
Yeah, a right shot finish Shane Gostisbehere.
Like, I don't understand at all.
Especially after the Ryan Ellis trade was so good for them. Like everyone's like, that's a great trade, and then you just do this. It's like, and it's only 1 year Ristolainen too. He can just peace out after.
I know, and I mean, I expect he will.
Oh God,
I don't know.
Oh, best of luck, Chuck Fletcher.
Yeah, I don't know. Chuck's lost his mind.
It seems everyone's lost their mind.
Well, yeah. Except for this is a good trade. Columbus got Jake Bean for a second from Carolina.
That's great for Kekalainen.
Yeah, absolutely. Columbus, we're gonna get into their trades now. They had a fantastic day.
Yeah.
They acquired so many first round picks and assets and prospects and just everything. So after getting Bean for a second, they traded Seth Jones with a $9.5 million contract attached.
Oh, God.
For 31st overall or 32nd, however you want to count it, this year. A sixth next year for 12th overall, a first next year, and a second this year. I don't know what pick it was, and Adam Boquist. That is way too much for Seth Jones.
Yeah, that is an amazing trade for Columbus. They got Boquist, who I believe was a top 10 pick like 3 years ago.
Yep.
Whatever, like their top 15 pick, I forget what number it was, like 14th or whatever. And a first round pick next year in the Shane Wright draft. But I believe there was a condition that it's top 2 protected. So
it'll be 2023.
Yeah, probably. But then a second round pick. So you give up like essentially 3 first round picks and a second for Seth Jones. And then you sign him to a massive contract of $9.5 million for 8 years. Yeah. And then it looks even worse because Cale Makar signs today 6 years at $9 million.
I laughed so hard. I really thought he was going to come out here with $12.3 million based on Seth Jones' contract, but I'm really glad that he signed for less than Jones.
It just makes Chicago look even dumber.
Yep.
They got the Jones brothers. Good for them.
Yep. The Jones brothers, the Doc brothers now. Love it. Another trade that happened yesterday that was a pretty big one, at least a lot of money going everywhere. Yeah. Vancouver acquires Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland. Arizona acquires Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, Louis Eriksson, 9th overall, next year's 2nd, and the year after that, 7th. I like this trade for the Canucks. I think Ekman-Larsson is expensive, but isn't bad. Like I like Ekman-Larsson at $4.5 million. So they're paying him 7 now because Arizona retained 1 or 12% or whatever. But I don't know. It's a weird trade because it's like they both lose, but they both win.
Yeah, I think Arizona wins this because essentially you could say they took on more money this year with the 3 contracts coming back for Ekman-Larsson. So they take on more this year, but they save in the long run. And then 9th overall and like a 2nd and the 3rd for Garland. So I think Arizona did well on this, considering they got back into the top 10 after losing their pick for this year.
Yep.
But then Vancouver, I think this trade, it helps them this year, but in the long, if Ekman-Larsson doesn't bounce back to what he could be able to play to, this is not a great trade for them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if he does bounce, if he like changes scenery, and Garland's a really good player. If he like their top 9 is really good.
Yeah.
But if Ekman-Larsson doesn't bounce back, and like Vancouver's defense was pretty bad last year at best in the last few years. But so hopefully Ekman-Larsson can bounce back. If not, this could be a disaster. But if he bounces back and to what he could be able to, he looks like a genius. So we have to wait and see.
I think regardless, I mean, Dylan Guenther would be really good on Vancouver. But this makes this team better, I think. So I don't know.
It would have been funny if Kent Johnson or Luke Hughes went 9th, because both of them would have been good, perfect picks for Vancouver. I would have laughed. The BC native and Quinn Hughes' brother go 9th to the pick.
That would have been hilarious.
Too bad.
And then the only other trade that we haven't gone over that I haven't missed on this draft is Jonathan Bernier and a 3rd for Alex Nedeljkovic. What is wrong with Carolina? Like, this guy
I don't
was
get
just
this
a
at
Calder
all.
nominee, and you don't want to pay him $3 million.
From what I gathered, like they offered him 1.5, he wanted 3.5. Yeah. And 3.5 is not even like bad. I thought that was reasonable. That was fair
for a starting goalie.
Sorry, but yeah, and he's only 20. Like he's one of these guys where it's like, oh, just you wait until next year when he gets his chance. And finally, he did this year with Mrazek getting hurt, and he was fantastic. I think where they're coming from, I think Waddell said they want to win. They're in win now mode, not win in the future mode. So I don't get like. You should be able to get more for a Calder nominated goalie than a 3rd round pick and their UFA rights to Bernier.
Yeah, but if they're in a win now mode, Jonathan Bernier is not helping them more than Nedeljkovic.
That's the thing I don't get. Like Bernier is a fine goalie; he's not bad. Yeah. And Mrazek had a great year, but he only played like 10 games because of injury. Nedeljkovic just and I get the argument. I saw some arguments saying that he only played like 6 teams last year because of the COVID season, and this like you see all the time, like goalies come to the league out of nowhere and they look like stars, like Hammond. You saw it with Darling. You saw
Jim
it with
Carrey.
Jim Carrey, net detective, won the Vezina one year. You see it all the time. All the time, you see guys. Even someone like Andrew Raycroft was a high pick, and he kind of just petered out. Yeah. But so it's so hard to judge goalies. But on a surface level, it's just a terrible trade. Like you should have, if you're going to move him for something else, you could have got more. Then even Steve Yzerman's like press conference, like, oh, why did he want to trade him? It's like, I don't know. Ask him.
Yeah. Why was it so cheap? I don't know. Go ask them. I don't know. I just took it.
I just took it. And, God, Detroit, it's just going to be so good in a few years.
Yeah. Well, it's been quite a while, but I think we're done.
There's a lot to catch up on, but
yes.
Yeah.
This draft we're at 83 now. 82, sorry. So we're still in the third round.
Mid-third. Well, only 4 more to go.
Yeah.
And it started at what, 11? Yeah. It started at 11 Eastern, and we're at 2.
Wow.
Oh, can't wait.
Well, let's hope Ottawa takes a bunch more people that we don't know, and hopefully those people we don't know turn out to be pretty good.
Watch who they draft in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds are like steals.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's like what Ville Koivunen.
Yeah.
Oh, I love.
I know it's probably not going to happen because I'm pretty sure he's like 5'3", but is Aito Iguchi draft eligible?
I think it's this year. If they went for Aito Iguchi, this would be my favorite draft of all time. I know later on. I know. Like I don't know if you play the NHL games a lot, but if you don't edit, Trevor Wong is always like the best prospect in this year's draft. Yeah. For some reason, and he's right. If they draft Trevor Wong, like he's really good in the video games, so we're drafting him like in the 4th round or whatever.
He's like a 68 medium elite.
For some reason, he's only going like the 5th round. Oh God.
But yeah, long day. I'd love for Ottawa to draft Aito Iguchi. Just at 5'3",
it'd be
not
cool.
A chance. There's not a chance he plays in the NHL. But oh my God, what an amazing time that would be.
Yeah, can't wait.
So yeah, thanks everybody for coming to check us out. If you were here at any point in this hour and 37 minutes, this has actually been quite a bit of fun. And a ton to catch up on. We'll be doing another video or podcast or something after the free agency, and look forward to it. Hope Pierre Dorion gives us something to talk about.
Perfect. Can't wait.
Yeah, take care, Jordan.
Yeah, take care. See ya.